I think something that I really got out of this conversation was that film isn't a language in the way that we typically think about a language like English, French, Spanish, right? I think film is more of like a tongue, a way of speaking that isn't necessarily just translating words, but more of like translating images. And it requires a certain kind of tongue to be able to translate an image that is not tangible, right? Or evident in the three-dimensional realm, but is perceived. And to be able to translate that image so well that it can manifest clearly in the mind of the individual that you're speaking to, that you're describing it to. And that's what I got from this conversation. Because it was demonstrated in practice so well between Martin Scorsese and Timothée Chalamet, the way that I feel like the images were manifesting was with ease. And they could understand the point that the other was making so well that they could finish each other's sentences, could ask the right question that helped the other person further their point. And I loved the difference in opinion, but the shared beliefs between the two. And I felt like it flowed very, very well, very beautifully. I enjoyed the discussion of duality, the acknowledgement, and just simply addressing the fact that film is spiritual. Filmmaking is spiritual. Because I think that's a very beautiful belief to be expressed in a conversation. It changes the nature of the conversation. Because film isn't always observed that way. But I feel that for me, it just gave me a better understanding of why sometimes I don't perceive filmmaking to be an art form. Simply because it does have so much duality. And the duality was clearly evident in this conversation. You could hear it by the way they were talking about morality and how the morality of a film is kind of like completely and wholeheartedly undefined. And even when it is blatantly expressed and defined, it's still up in the air because people interpret things in different ways. There's no one opinion that's absolute and guaranteed to be shared by all. So, the fact that film has a natural duality within it makes me question whether or not it really is an art form. Because I just don't think art is subjective. But filmmaking, just in general, is a very subjective kind of. It requires a lot of subjective observations in order to work. And of course, there are things about the filmmaking process that are objectively just true. Still, just the possibility of something being interpreted more than one way. I think excludes it from being a work of art. But that's a different conversation. It's just something that observing this particular conversation made me think about just a little bit deeper. But I do love that there is an openness that Martin Scorsese has that allows his films to be so boundless, yet reflect a system of belief, reflect morals, but still, you're still able to interpret it in whatever way comes to you. But I just feel that when two people share a love for the same thing, the conversation is just effortless and it's beautiful. It's intuitive, it's psychic, it's empathetic, because then you're more likely to communicate in more ways than just words. And that was definitely the thing here. They were able to communicate with just emotion and memories and just experiences where they had the same realization about something, like being able to see New York transform and become something that it wasn't before, and the fact that they both have that experience, and that there was a lot that they shared, even though they're clearly two totally different generations. But they were still able to come together, and I thought that was beautiful. So yes, this is the end.